If you're looking to create topspin and you haven't played another racket sport like tennis, make sure you watch this video all the way through because I'm going to be talking about very simple things that you can do to learn and create topspin in your own game. All right, first things first, before we even talk through technique, I would recommend an Eastern grip, and that closes your paddle face. So just for example, the continental grip or the hammer grip, which a lot of players use, if I'm hitting the ball right here, this is what that would look like as I have my hand position in a neutral, relaxed position. If I'm in an Eastern grip, it changes and closes that paddle face a little bit. So this lends itself to actually hit easier topspin. So I would recommend the Eastern grip. Number two is you gotta have the correct spacing. So if you're going to try to be offensive with your dinks or your drops or anything like that, you have to have adequate spacing. So you can't be super jammed up, and the ball cannot be super far away from you. You can't be reaching. Now let's get to the number one element to creating topspin, and that is dropping your paddle head below the contact of the ball. The reason why this is important is because we're going to be swinging up, right? So I cannot start my paddle at the ball level, or obviously I can't start it higher than the ball, right? I have to start lower below it. The lower I start below the ball, the easier it is for me to create topspin on the way up. So now let's move on to the second important thing to creating topspin. Now that we have a good understanding of how important it is to drop that paddle head below the ball, now we need to swing up towards the ball, but we want to look at our wrist. A lot of players think that creating topspin is really wristy, or they whip it, or they use a lot of wrist action, and that is further from the truth, especially on topspin dinks. So I actually want my wrist to be fairly stable through contact and all the way up. What you will see a little bit of, we call it pronation, when this forearm is turning over slightly. So you're gonna see this kind of motion, and if you look at my wrist, it's not doing this. So it's not super wristy. All I'm doing is going from low to high, and I'm kind of swinging with my shoulder, but this is the movement that you're going to see, so it's not wristy at all. So if you are trying to utilize wrists to create topspin, that is where you're going to find a lot of inconsistencies, and you're going to be popping up the ball a lot higher than you would like. The next thing that's critical when we're talking about topspin, especially on dinks, is the vertical swing path. We start really low and we have to end really high. I see a lot of players actually pushing forward on the ball. Remember, this is not a push or a lift dink. If we are trying to apply topspin, we have to start low and we have to actually swing in a vertical or upwards motion. This is why you'll see players like a Federico Stacksrud or Ben Johns, when they finish their stroke and they finish their topspin dink, they're left on the same side of their body, right? They're starting a little bit towards their right and they're coming straight up on the ball, and they will finish just outside their right cheek. All right, so if we put it all together, this is what it's gonna look like here. Again, that spacing is really important. I'm creating adequate space, and I'm dropping my paddle tip down, and you'll see I'm not wristy. And last thing that I talked about is my follow through is going to be ending kind of on the right side of my cheek here, especially when I'm dinking down the line. It's really important that I follow through upwards, straight vertically like this, so that I'm actually brushing straight up on the ball. Okay, so I'm gonna take a couple more here. Okay, and again, I am in that Eastern grip. It's not mandatory to use that grip, but it will be a lot easier to close your paddle face when you need to, when you're hitting this shot. Speaking of topspin, topspin is only one of the ways that you can utilize to attack your opponents. If you would like a complete masterclass on attacking, click in the link in the description below or go to attackmasterclass.com. All right, so now let's get to the swinging volley. If you're at the net and you've always wanted to apply maximum pressure on your opponents, we do this by hitting topspin on our volleys. Same kind of things still apply, all right? So this ball is going to be hit in the air, right? So number one, what's really important is I have to be in a really low stance, and this allows me to get low to the ball, because as we learned, we have to drop our paddle head on our forehand side below the ball. The lower that I can get it below contact, the more vertical I can swing. All right, secondly, we talked about our wrist, right? It's not a super wristy shot. I'm gonna make sure that I'm actually lifting up towards my target and towards the ball. And also, I will be utilizing a little bit of pronation. So you're gonna see a little bit of that. My forearm, you're going to see, is going to be turning a little bit as I swing up. And lastly, that vertical motion, which we talked about, I see lots of players try the shot in a game or in practice, and their swing is very linear. They're swinging out to the ball, okay? When we're doing this, we have more chances of actually hitting the net or flying that ball and hitting that ball out, okay? So it's really important to start low, and as I end, you're going to see some of my finishes kind of be above my head like this, or if I'm really pronating my forearm here, you're gonna see my finishes finishing across up here, kind of right above my left shoulder. All right, so now let's see it in action. Remember, we talked about how important that low wide stance is. And if my ready position is in a good ready position here, I'm going to be, the first move that I'm gonna be doing is dropping this paddle head, and I'm gonna be swinging up. This first one, I'm actually gonna show you kind of finishing towards my right side, and this is really just going to be a vertical motion. I'm not gonna be pronating a lot, but I am still going to create topspin on this shot. So you could do it this way, okay? So you're gonna notice my paddle still comes below, quite below the ball. And again, I'm not super risky. So what I'm not doing is this, right? I'm not doing that. The more risky you get, the more inconsistent it could be. So what I'm doing right now is I'm focusing on dropping that paddle, head down, and going straight up on the ball. So go ahead, Caleb, a couple more. There we go. And then there. Okay. So on that last one, you probably can tell, you can see that spin there. Now, if I want to accelerate it a little bit more, what I can do is swing a little bit faster, and I'm going to actually just use a little bit more pronation. And this windshield wiper motion, which a lot of people refer to, is a way that we can actually still have a very vertical swing path, but I can actually swing a little bit faster because I'm coming over like this, rotating or actually turning my forearm over like this. So you're gonna see my finish is now kind of finished above my left shoulder, okay? So here we go, Caleb. Okay. All right, so you saw right there, I'm using that quick pronation, still dropping my paddle head down, and again, keeping my wrists fairly stable, but I am turning my forearm over and using that pronation. We talked about how to apply topspin on your dinks and also on your swinging volleys, but if you would actually want to learn all the ways you can apply topspin with your backhand, make sure you check out our free video series below, all on the two-handed backhand, or you can click a video here about serving.